Hello everybody, this is Bird Brain. We are nerdy for the birdies, and we have now finished the first game of the regular season. The Philadelphia Eagles are 1-0, and there's some things to talk about. So, as we know, on this show, on our post-game ponder, we look at 5 observations, and I'm actually adding a new segment, Player of the Game, where we're going to highlight a player who I thought had an outstanding game, and was a huge reason why the Eagles won. So, without further ado, let's get into it. So, first observation, let's be honest, this was not Jalen Hurts' best performance. It was a very sloppy night, but he showed resolve. This was not Jalen's best game. I think there were times where he was trying to play a little too much hero ball, putting the ball in bad situations. Sometimes he got bailed out of it, and sometimes he didn't. Those 2 interceptions, now the first one was 100% on Jalen. It was a late pass, trying to bite too much dip off his chin. Just throw it out of bounds if you don't see anybody really open, or, take off and run, get what you can. I get it, you're backed up. You really want to try to make an impression. You don't want to start your season off with an interception. Later on in the game, he's rolling to his right. Now, this one's kind of a little on a bunch of things, but I don't love it when quarterbacks throw against their body. Throw opposite of their bodies. They're rolling right and they throw it back to their left. It rarely works. It's just not really a play that works. Mahomes can get it off. Allen can get that off. It didn't help that AJ slipped as he was trying to get open. Because if you watch the play, he is open for like a couple seconds. Jalen sees it. Jair sees it. I don't think if AJ had stayed on his feet perfectly, it would have been intercepted, but it would have been close. And look, Jalen has been someone that typically doesn't put it in harm's way. I don't know why tonight he was pushing it. Maybe he was pressing a little bit. And look, he knows better. But at the same time, down the field, down the stretch, he made plays. We saw that run late in the game where he's carrying 2 Packers on his back. He's making plays there. He made some great throws to Devontae to help close the game. He made great plays to AJ. Got the ball around the field. We'll talk about another player who made some great plays on offense in a sec. But I'm not overly concerned by Jalen because he doesn't typically play like that. And look, in camp, Jalen was sharp. He was making the right reads. I think this is a quarterback that hasn't really been hit, hasn't really gotten different looks, hasn't played against, his own defense the last few weeks. Now he's gotten live rounds. Now he's worked out some kinks. And there's some other things that he's going to have to work out. And Jalen was kind of a metaphor for this game as a whole. And as I get to that observation later. But on a more positive note, how about the impact of Saquon Barkley? That's my second observation. An amazing night, over 100 yards rushing, 3 total touchdowns, just was a dominant force in this game. And I'll be honest, a lot of people this offseason were saying, Saquon's going to have like Christian McCaffrey levels of impact. And I don't think it'll be that good. That's a lot to ask out of Saquon. But if he continues to play the way he's been playing, he'll be on that level, because he had himself a night, one of the best nights of his career in general. Maybe not necessarily in terms of total yardage, but I thought he played his butt off tonight. I thought he had a great game. He was a huge reason why this offense stayed in the game. I mean, he had the huge, fumble recovery late to save us down in the red zone. Had a big run, I think, going into the fourth quarter. He was big on that final drive, helping to keep the drive going. And he was somebody that, was one of the few guys earlier on to help get the offense going. And once he got going, it kind of helped Jalen get going, helped everybody else get going. And that's kind of what they got him for. When Jalen has these off games, hey, we're just going to start running the football, go back to what we know. We're going to get it to Saquon. He's going to put up numbers, and he had a night. And that's what we want to see. The Packers were not letting Jalen run. All right, fine, we're going to let Saquon run. And he took advantage of his opportunities. So his impact was felt there. He had a receiving touchdown, a really nice play. Had another catch, too, that could have been a little bit bigger had he not stepped out of bounds. We are seeing, the impact that he can have in this offense. When he motions, you see the defense follow. I'm excited to see what else they do with him. But as for right now, Saquon Barkley, have a night. Shifting to the defense, I thought the linebackers in particular had a really good night, especially Zach Bond, and I'll talk about him later on. But I thought as a whole, Nakobe, I thought, had some really nice plays. Nakobe nearly has a pick 6. I get it. You'd love him to catch it. Put us up, 21-12, I think, at that point. but I think the ball kind of just got on him faster than he realized it would happen. Zach Bond, just several plays against the run and the pass. He helped cause a pick and the final sack, and he just was everywhere. Physical, tough, just... I can see why this team was talking him up in camp. And look, we saw him in the first preseason game against the Ravens, and he wasn't 100%. He wasn't playing very well. And then the second game, he stood out. And I was wondering, I wonder which one we're going to get. And if we get this guy that we got in this game, he might be the best linebacker the Eagles have had in the last few years. I think the only person he can really rival with is TJ Edwards. And even then, there were some things he was doing that I'm not sure if Edwards would do. But if you can get this degree of linebacker play from Nakobe and Bond, I think that's what this defense needs. The Fangio defense is built around linebackers. And look, Devin White didn't play. I thought the linebackers were not the position that was the sore spot on defense. I thought really the defense as a whole kind of had an up and down night, and we'll get to that later. But I thought the linebackers were probably the most consistent players throughout. Again, Nakobe made mistakes, but I thought as a whole they really had a good game, and I feel a little bit better about that unit. Going back to the offense, there were some offensive line woes. Obviously, Cam Jurgens had 2 missed exchanges with Jalen. The first one I would probably put more on Cam. The second one I put more on Jalen. That's going to happen. And look, it takes time to work with a new center. And it's very rare you're going to have a center as good as Jason Kelce. Now, I think Cam's going to be very good. I thought he had a really good night blocking. I thought he played pretty well. It's just one of those things where, again, those exchanges are going to be crucial, and they're going to have to work that out. I mean, Jalen's been catching snaps from Kelce the last 4 years of his career. It's going to change. It's going to be different. He expects it one place and somewhere else. And in the heat of battle, you may not think about the fact that Cam's snaps might be 600 inches lower than where Kelce snaps it and stuff like that. So I can understand their problems, but they have to work that out. I thought the rest of the offensive line played fine. I thought they looked better against the blitz. I thought there were some clear improvements in that category, but again, there's just things that they have to work out. And I think the thing about this is the first time this offensive line has played together in a game. This is the first time that Jordan Mailata, Landon Dickerson, Cam Jurgens, Mekhi Becton, and Lane Johnson all played together. And I thought they looked fine for a first game. Like, there are things I want them to improve upon, but there is room to grow here, and I think they will get better and better as time goes on. Last observation. As a whole, this was a very rusty kind of game for the Eagles, where it felt very unbalanced at times. One side of the ball was very good, and the other side of the ball was playing poorly. A great example, first quarter, the Eagles offense, 2 turnovers on their first 2 drives, gives the Packers incredible field position. However, later on, second quarter, Eagles offense turns it on. They get 2 touchdowns to Saquon and a field goal. They start scoring points. They start moving drives. They scored, I think, on all their drives in the second. First quarter defense, they played really great. 6 points on the first 3 drives. And, they were given some rough situations to work through. And I thought they played really, really well, especially in the run. Then the second quarter, they had really bad run defense against Emmanuel Wilson and later on Jaden Reed. They had this, C.J. Gardner-Johnson blew the coverage with Jaden Reed leading to a 70-yard touchdown. It was very choppy, both sides. And it felt like as the game went on, they started to click a little bit more where they get a little better. But again, this wasn't the sharpest night overall for the team. Quinyon Mitchell, I thought, had an overall solid night. I thought he played really well in spots. There were some points he made some mistakes. He's a rookie. That's going to happen. I thought some guys looked better than others on the defense. I thought Jalen Carter had a heck of a night. Jordan Davis, he's not, I don't know what stats he put up. I haven't really looked at the final stats, but Jordan Davis, I thought, especially in the run game early, was incredible. Stuffing Josh Jacobs several times. I mean, the Eagles against Josh Jacobs were great in the first half. You could tell as the game wore on, they got tired. Jacobs started getting bigger chunks, but they never let him score. But yeah, this was a battle. And look, the Packers are a good team. And if there's any proof of that, you watched it tonight. They took on the Eagles and they gave them a huge fight. And this was a team that went to Dallas last year and absolutely kicked the Cowboys' ass. So this is what's going to happen. This is a team that is going to fight. They have players that are dogs that may not be known by name, but this was always going to be a close game. And the Packers, they just couldn't keep up at the end. I hope Jordan Love's okay. I've seen a video where I'm very scared of what could happen, but hopefully he's healthy. Because if these two teams match up in the postseason, it's going to be very important where they play. So now the Eagles get to get on a plane and get home, rest up, get ready to play the Falcons. Hopefully some other guys are healthy. Last thing, my new segment, Player of the Game. Now, up until probably the last 30 seconds, I was going to say Saquon Barkley. However, I'm going to give it to someone who I don't know will win it in future, but I really want to give him his flowers, because this was a player that when the Eagles signed him, a lot of people were like, alright, that's a depth signing, he's whatever. And then in camp, they realized, wait a second, he's starting, he's playing with the starters. And I thought he had a great night and was a huge reason why we won. Zach Bond had himself a night, and I mentioned this when I was talking about the linebackers. I mean, he was everywhere, especially in the run game, making tackles. He was pressuring the quarterback on blitzes. He had the sack to end it on Malik Willis. He had He got in the passing lane for the interception that Reed got, so he caused that play. He was just everywhere, just strong linebacker play. And they kind of used him the way I thought he would, where he'd be this guy that would sometimes rush the passer off the edge. And this is just a small observation. I kind of noticed that like almost every snap pre-snap, the Eagles defense would line up with like 4 guys on the line, and then one of the linebackers would join them. Or if Josh Sweat was playing linebacker, he would line up and the whole line would shift, which I thought was interesting. That happened a lot for the defense. That was interesting. But he had himself a night, man, and I think he deserves credit. Look, Saquon's going to get his flowers, and everyone's going to talk about him, but let's give Zach Bond his credit, because that man fought through this game, and, he deserves his flowers. So, for that reason, Zach Bond, player of the game. So, by the time this is uploaded, this will obviously be a day late, because it is currently almost 1 a.m. that I'm recording this, and I think most people really just want to go to sleep. So, we will release this in the morning. You guys can enjoy that after everyone's had a good night's sleep. I wouldn't panic about this team. I didn't see a lot of the same problems that we had last year. I thought they were better against the blitz. I thought the defense, despite giving up so many points, played better, especially in the second half. The second half, they went into it giving up, they were at, I believe, 19 points halftime. They only gave up 10 in the second. They gave up 6 in the first quarter, so they just have to play a full game defensively. They played well, I thought, as a whole. The defense, I don't think, is going to have as many of the same problems as last year, especially if they get better at communicating and working together. The offense, I don't think Jalen's going to continue to play like that. If it is, it's going to be a problem. But hopefully tonight was more of a Jalen just not being right night, and more of a and less of this is the future now, where he's going to just chuck the ball up and play hero ball and be Carson Wentz 2.0. So, obviously, we'll end this. Prayers to Jordan Love. Hopefully he's okay. This is Bird Brain. Hope you guys enjoyed yourself getting nerdy for the birdies. See you around.